Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dan Boul coming at you from, where am I? North Hollywood, California. I've been back and forth to our new shop so many times I forgot where I was. I'm in North Hollywood, and today I have for you Little Elvis, and I have a very cool story on this. It's 12:12 p.m. right now on 12/12/12, and I'm playing Little Elvis, which is a 12-watt amp. And I have the maturity of a 12-year-old. And I think that speaks for itself. Hey, Chell. So we've got people logged in from all over the planet here. South America, Europe, North America. If we get someone from Asia and the Middle East and Africa, we'll be all set. So Little Elvis, let me tell you Little Elvis stories. But first, I'll tell you what it is. It is a 12-watt amp clean. It's a pair of EL84s with a very unique circuit and very unique set of transformers. And I can tell you how that all came about. The name, however, let me tell you first, because we've been on here for about 20 minutes and getting questions already. I just started recording. One of the questions was this named after Elvis Presley or Elvis Costello? I know Elvis Costello uses 65 amps. No, I'll tell you where it came from. Whenever we're making a prototype, we always give them a nickname. And you remember Tiny Elvis on Saturday Night Live, Nicolas Cage's little skit he used to do? It was Elvis like this big, and he always got everyone in trouble because he's going, come on, baby, just run that red light, or let's rob that liquor store. The point of that skit was no matter how small Elvis is, he's still a badass, right? And so that was the nickname for this amp. And then we ended up just keeping it because we couldn't think of a better name. Dirty 59 says, how did it end up being 12 rather than 18 watts? Well, Dirty 59, you're probably running on the assumption that all dual EL84 amps are 18 watts, and they're not. We have a 12-watt EL84 amp. We also have one that's 20 watts, and we have one that's 18. It depends on several factors. Voltage is one of them. The efficiency of your circuit, the efficiency of your output transformer also makes a big difference. This particular one has inefficiency built into the output transformer for specific performance characteristics that make it sound really vintage. This has a butt stacked transformer in it instead of an EI stacked transformer. For you non-guitar, non-amp builders, that means nothing. For guys like David Hayes that are on here, cheers, David, he understands exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, I'm just kidding you, Dirty 59. Don't be hurt. Don't be hurt now. We're all family here. There's a lot of common misconceptions out there about amps, and one of my missions in life is to get rid of those because they're all, what's the word I'm looking for? Bullshit. Purported by marketing people because most of them have their amps all made in the same factory in China. Which we don't. We make them here in the U.S. And we're moving to a bigger shop here in the U.S. And I'm so thrilled I can hardly contain myself. David, that's okay, Dirty 59. That was my weakness too until I got into this business. And I went, oh, there's a lot of BS in this business. But we're going to dispel those one at a time. Yeah, I need a 12-string guitar. Butt stack transformer. Mitchless, I hope that's not Mitch Colby, because if that's Mitch Colby, you know what that means. So David Hayes might be the only guy on here that knows what a butt stacked output transformer is. You have to look it up on Google. It would take too long to explain. But most transformers are what's called EI stacked, so that their charge is opposing each other so the plates attract each other. So you kind of just, make them opposite so because you charge these things and they're magnetic, so if they weren't opposite, they would fly apart. Well, the old butt stack transformer had them all stacked like this. So, and you have to have a big frame around it, because if you don't, as soon as you run electricity into it, it would fly apart. And butt stack transformers were really inefficient, but they had a very cool sound. But, you know, in the 60s, when it was all about louder, 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 everyone switched over to EI stack transformers. This, however, is intentionally inefficient. I wanted a low volume, low powered thing that sounded huge, and that's where the name came from. As we were building this, like, God, this thing sounds like a big fat... There's tons of low powered amps out there that don't sound very big. This thing sounds gigantic. I'm not going through this Marshall cabinet, by the way. I got 20 emails last week, people going, hey, wasn't that Marshall cabinet bleeding into your vocal mic? This is just an amp stand. My cabinet's out in the other room. And this week we're using a different cabinet. It's our 212 box, but I have an Alnico Blue and the Celestian Cream back in there. So it's a very vintage sounding cabinet. Hear that big fat woody tone. Some of that's the amp, some of that's that cabinet. It's a good combination with the... no, the early Voxes all used EI stuff. Hey, Chad, what's up? Butt stacked equals BS, that's right. So, to answer, long answer to a short question, Dirty 59, hence 12 watts clean. It does a little bit, it goes about 15 when you crank it into distortion, but it's about 12 watts clean. So let me tell you a story about how this amp came about, because it's really cool. This was one of my most fun experiences since I've been in the amp business. So my good friend Jim Elliott wrote this book that is right here. Let me show it to you. I always keep it in my office for a reference guide. If you don't have this book, you need to go buy it. Vox Amplifiers, the JMI years. This has every variation of every Vox that JMI made. JMI was the original company started by Dick Denny and Tom Jennings. JMI stands for Jennings Musical Instruments. Jim Elliott just sold his collection, sadly, but it was around the corner from us here in North Hollywood. And he had 225, yeah, I work out with it. Yeah, that was my only complaint on the book. I said, Jim, I love your book, but there's one problem. He said, oh, really? What's that? It makes my leg go to sleep. 780 pages, I think. It's the most comprehensive Bible of everything Vox ever made, and it dispels every myth about Vox amps in there. And maybe I'll give you a quiz here in a minute about a couple of myths about Vox amps that amp makers will tell you every day as if it's religion, and that's just completely wrong. But so Jim had a collection of roughly 225 JMI Voxes, and I was on his little panel of listeners in there along with Brian Kehew, who you've met here on the show, producer, engineer guy. And we went through every variation of every model Vox has ever made side by side. So one night it would be AC-10 night. And Jim would have 11 different versions of an AC-10. We'd play through them all, give them a rating. You know, got a good beat, I can dance to it, sort of American Bandstand style thing. And we went through every model. It took months. And the biggest, coolest part of this was Jim had all these amps. Not all of them worked right. So he contracted us, mostly Mike Franciscini here in the shop, to go through every one of his amps and make sure they were working right before we did the taste testing, you know. So we were doing a fair sample. And so we went through a couple hundred Voxes here, bought them tons of tubes, fixed some, put the circuits back to stock, you know, all these sorts of things. So we learned, we got really, really intimate with Vox. And the very last amp Jim brought it over was this prototype. And literally the chassis was nailed into the cabinet. And he said, I'm not sure what this is. I know it's a Vox, but I can't recognize it. Can you guys go through and just see if it works, and we'll play with it and just have fun? I went, yeah, sure, no problem. And when we opened it, I called Jim and I said, "Hey Jim, I don't think this is a Vox amp. The circuit's like nothing I've seen in any of your other Voxes, and we're supposedly the only people in the world who've ever gone through every variation of every Vox made. And not that I'm an expert, but we're kind of an expert. You know what I mean?" And hey Justin, what's up? And so he goes, "No, I'm certain it's a Vox. Let me call Derek Underdown, who was the head engineer at Vox starting in like 1954. He called Derek, called me back, goes, "No, that amp was Dick Denny's amp, one of the partners in JMI. And he played with it. It never went into production because it got too much distortion." Guess what? The distortion's ridiculous on it. We got it. We're like, holy cow, this thing sounds really good. It was buzzy and hummy and didn't work right, and it was a mess. We kind of got it working right. I took the transformers out, took them over to Mercury Magnetics. The best we could find is that they were made by a company called Souder in the early 60s in England, which is not a transformer that any British amp company ever used. There was a name on the amp. It was like an AC-10 Super Reverb, but it never. They made like 10 of those, and it wasn't this circuit. It was a different circuit. That was the panel that was on there, but that's not what the circuit is. So here was the fun part, right? So Jim calls me up and says, "Hey, we're going to do the release party for the book. I want you to come. Oh, and listen, Derek Underdown's going to fly over. And he's an old English guy. You know, he's like 83, 84 years old. You lived in England. Do you think you could take care of him, like make him tea and, you know, find a pub on Ventura Boulevard or something, you know, make him feel at home?" I went, "Oh my God, are you kidding? The guy can move into my house. You know, I'd love to sit and talk to Derek Underdown." So Derek comes over. I was expecting sort of this doddering old man, sharp as a tack. He came over to the shop. I went over to Jim's, picked him up. He came over to the shop. I pulled out the amp and said, "Do you remember this thing?" He goes, "Oh, bloody hell, yes. That was Dick's amp, and he was always futzing about with it. And I had to fix it all the time." And I'm like, "Well, look, we made a copy of it because I love it so much. I had my transformer guys copy the transformers, note for note. It's perfect copy, only we got it working right." He goes, "Oh, right." And he takes off his coat, puts on his reading glasses, rolls up his sleeves, and goes over to Mike's bench. "Let's have a look, shall we?" And he helped us finish the amp. We put the tremolo on. We, you know, did the bump. He worked with us all day long. It was fantastic. All the whole time, Derek's telling us, "Oh, I haven't had this much fun since Dick and Tom started in the 50s. You know, you guys have that spirit. It's lovely." And it was just fantastic. I can't tell you. I took 24 pages of notes sitting around talking. We just sat down and quizzed Derek. How did you do this? How did you guys do that? Tell me all the secrets. He showed us grounding tricks, little circuit tricks that aren't documented anywhere in Vox history. He showed us how to get around all sorts of ground loop issues, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, there's one part of the circuit, and he laughed, and he said, "Have you figured out what that one triode does?" I went, "No, we haven't, because the grid's not hooked up, but we know if we pull it out, it doesn't sound near as good." He goes, "Yeah, well," he said he was in the RAF during World War II. And part of his job, a big part of his job, he was on the southern coast of England keeping radar stations up. And the Nazis were hurling bomb after bomb after bomb at England, you know, like 50 an hour, you know, kind of deal. And those radar stations got damaged all the time. So he came up with a little trick to fatten up the signal on the radar station to get it back to London. Even if the thing had been damaged, he could warm up that signal enough that it could get all the way back to London. We still don't know exactly how it works, and it's sort of a don't ask, don't tell sort of thing. He explained it to us. I took notes. I still don't get it. It's a trick he learned in World War II, which is why this 12-watt amp sounds like a 100-watt Marshall. If I pull that triode out right now, it would sound like every other dual EL84 fuzz box that's out there that you buy at Guitar Center for $400. You know, it's this big. I couldn't believe my luck, my good fortune. It just, God smiles on me or something. I don't know what it was. I'm just writing down furious. And Derek worked with us all day long. I was supposed to babysit Derek for like 2 hours. And after like 10 hours, Jim calls me and goes, "Hey, man, is the guy okay?" I'm like, "Dude, we're having so much fun. Derek's part of my staff now. We're over here making amps." He went through amps. We were Soho. He went through all these. "Oh, you know what you need to do is move this over here." You know, and it was incredible. He went through like 5 or 6 of our models. He showed us improvements like you wouldn't believe. I learned it from the master himself. It's like you're in art school and, you know, Da Vinci comes in and goes, no, let me see your brush. Right? It was incredible. So, yeah, Dirty 59. This trick is on the Tupelo and the Elvis. Transformers are very different on the Tupelo. And Bob Sacco, the London was our first amp. We just released Elvis in like 2009 or something. Anyway, that's why this little tiny amp sounds so good. I don't use that trick on the London, no. Just on this. This is a very unique circuit. I don't want to go into a lot of details, just because, yeah, I want to protect it. Yeah, I could put it on any amp I want. Tupelo is 6v6, yeah. So anyway, that is the story of Lil Elvis. So the original prototype that we got was just pure distortion. I mean, it couldn't get a clean sound at all. That's all it was, volume and tone, and that was it. So we showed Derek how we do our bump, and he said, "Oh, why don't you do it like this?" Doesn't that sound like a 60s amp? I mean, Derek showed us everything. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, this is one of the guys. He designed the AC30. He designed the AC15. He designed the AC. It's him. Tom and Dick were just the guys that ran the company. But we learned a lot from Derek Underdown that day. And Derek's still my consultant. I call him every couple months and, "Derek, how you feeling today, sir?" And if I have a technical question we can't get around or absolutely stumped, I call Derek. He's 86 now, I think, and he's still just sharp as a tack. Every time I call him, "Hello, Dan, how are you, mate? How's the children?" You know, he's just gentleman, completely lovely, lovely guy. The funny thing was, he didn't, you know... Bob Sacco says, let's see. Was Lil Elvis designed from the ground up with master voltage? Yeah. When we built the copy, I put the master voltage on it. Speaking of World War II military amp transformers, were partridge transformers butt stacks? No, those are EIs. The big ones are always EIs. Butt stacks are usually for little ones. In the output transformer, this amp's tiny compared to most of our output transformers. It's like this big. It is very voxy. I'm using an Alico Blue speaker and the Celestion Creamback today, which is sort of enhancing that. If I were running it through a G12H30, it would sound a little different. Dirty 59 says, "Wouldn't you love to have him come to the shop a couple?" Yeah, I would. It's hard to ask a man that age to travel from England all the way over here. But he's always very generous. I can send it. He does email. He's 86 years old. He does email. But I can always just call him. Yeah, it gets a little marshally if I hit the bump. But that's really more like big AC30, AC50 kind of distortion. Got more mid-range chewiness than a Marshall does. You know, Marshalls are pretty bold in the mid-range. This is a little creamier. What did he think about the bump? Oh, he loved it. He showed us how to make it better. He's not much of a distortion guy, though, as you would expect. So he doesn't appreciate the subtleties of distortion. Out of that for the neck pickup. XL72 says he must have known the Beatles quite well. Yes, he told us a lot of stories about the Beatles, about the Who, about the Kinks, about Jimmy Page coming in all the time. They had sort of an antagonistic relationship with Marshall. Crosstown rivalry sort of thing. Hey, Kevin. I think, excuse me, I think hiccups. I think that's a fantastic. Scott from Gear, what's up? I knew that was you, brother. How are you? I think it's a fantastic rhythm sound. That's just good 60s rhythm. You know, neck pickup, do the... Soon to be neighbor. You moving here to LA? Mom, baby's good to me. Got that sound. Early Who stuff, you know? Got a feeling inside. Can't explain. Certain kind. Can't explain. How are things at the new shop? They're going really well. I'm going to talk about it here shortly. We'll get down into the details. Tupelo is built, Scott. It's being teched right now. We're in cabinet hell. I can explain it to you, but... Oh, you're moving to Atwater. Cool. You got all that. Do some Wishbone. I don't even know anything Wishbone Ash ever did, Dave. I'm sorry. I may be just a hair young for that. Let's go over here to the bump. I could play it right. Just cool performance. Unusual circuit, unusual transformers. Just great. I can also do the... It's a little 60s rock and roll machine. Saw a lot of our amps on the ACA. Oh, cool. Oh, you're welcome, Scott. I mean, it's a fun story. It's one of the most fun weekends of my life was sitting around working with Derek Underdown, taking care of him. And I made proper tea. I know how to make real English tea and all that stuff. Come on, isn't that the song that invented hard rock? Everybody was sitting around going. And the Beatles invented hard rock with one song. Oh, still gives me goosebumps. Even when I play it wrong, I like it. Voices have come. Get to the mountain, I go back to the top of the slide. I stop, then I turn, then I go for a ride. Don't you want me to make you? I'm coming down fast, but don't let me break you. Tell me, come on, tell me the answer. Well, you may be a lover, but you ain't no dancer. Helter skelter, helter skelter. I've got blisters on my finger. I can't help myself. Sorry, I'm still a juvenile when it comes to this music. I'd love to go visit Derek in the UK if I could. I'm going to go to Music Messe this year in Frankfurt and hopefully get over to London. He lives in Kent, so it's only about an hour south of London, so I might be able to get over there. How about designing a limited edition tribute amp for Derek and all the Vox freaks? Someone else owns the name Vox. Anita is asking, are you going to do a show and play? You mean at Music Messe? Oh, there's a question here I passed up. What are the technical differences between the red and the blue line when all said and done? The transformers on the red line are machine wound. And the cabinets are simpler. That's about it. Everything else is the same. Same caps, same resistors, a whole bit. I am going to change the London Pro next year because we're selling so many of them. I'm going to put some of it on a board. It's sort of a printed circuit board, but You'll see it. It's a printed circuit board like no one's ever made before. I got 4mm traces. It's thick as hell. I'm just going to put the preamp on there because we can't make them fast enough. And we built some prototypes, and I can't tell the difference at all. But when you look at this, you won't go, oh, printed circuit board. You're going to go, oh, fire-breathing monster Panzer tank. Because we just saw the daylights out of the Redline amp. And... it's sort of a hybrid thing. I mean, a lot of it's, most of it's still hand wired. But the London Pro's really catching on with touring pros. Why is it catching on, Bob? Because it's good. But that will allow me to make more of them for less money without compromising at all. Kind of get a Vox AC/DC thing going, right? No stop signs, speed limits. I wish I could sing that high. Purely falsetto for those of you that aren't aware. You want a telly? I can do you a telly. Justin, my brother. Hey, I'm getting word today on that other project. So if that happens, you and me gonna be talking, son. I have no idea if this guitar's in tune at all, so it's not bad. I'll tune it up. You have a London Pro Dirty 59? It's a fun amp. I really dig it. Let's see how. Wait, I'm gonna do T-Rex. I gotta have my slapback. Built like a car, you got a hubcap, diamond star halo. Good and sweet, oh my. Play some old Petty. Let me think. I don't know a lot of Petty. How's it go? A little less echo there. It's alright if you want. I don't know. that. It's too much echo, isn't it? Let me lengthen it. What does it got? Eric Storer, I think I have the first production model of the London Pro. Wow, congratulations. Thank you, sir. Did I sign it for you? Judging by the spelling of your name, I'm guessing you're in Norway. And I'm coming over there next year, so maybe I'll sign it for you. If it's the first one, you need to have it signed. I did sign it. I read it. Okay. Yeah, Eric, when I'm over there, I'll do it. What, are you closer to Norway or Kristiansand, the two stores in Norway? You're in Oslo. Okay, we can come to Arna's new store. Have you been to Arna's store yet? That triode is not in the book. Right, there's mention of it, but it doesn't explain it. Still. This is my Elliott Telecaster made by Andy Elliott. ElliottGuitars.com. Very cool guitar. Telecaster. Let's go. You need tremolo, Kevin? Is that what you need, man? I got a Strat. I don't play those locking weird nerdy tremolos that you do, buddy. You know why? Because I can play the instrument. I'm totally messing with you, Kevin. I'm sorry. meet you at the... Hack's like, you need a trim. Like, yeah, when you hit a wrong note, you just go, and it's fine. How can I eliminate the ground loop hum when connecting an AC-powered tube tape echo in the front of the amp? Is it an old Echoplex or is it a new one? Put a ground lift on the cord, see what happens. You can, yeah, you want to come to the new shop, Scott? Absolutely. Oh, you want the tremolo? Oh, I gotcha. Sorry. Let me turn it on. Well, when you wake up in the morning. A little faster. And church bell, work bell ring. I don't make it into the words now. Let the midnight special shine its light on you. Let the midnight special shine its ever-living light on you. See, reduces the, doesn't work. Yeah, I'd call Mike Fuller. You might have one that's just got a ground problem in it. Mike's a good guy. He'll help you out. Dry signal. You know what, Chad? I'm not happy with the tube that's in. This one's just getting tacked. It's not finished yet. I just grabbed it for the show. I think the tube that's in here for the tremolos doesn't have enough gain, so I'm not getting as much deep oscillation out of it as I would like, and it's thumping. Yeah, Val McCallum has a stone pony. I think so, or he bought or wanted one. One of my favorite guitar players too, by the way. I'm not gonna make a 5-watt amp. Buy an amp, boys. Sack up. Why would you want a 5-watt amp? Just buy a 12-watt amp and play it on 5. That's 5 watts right there. Take my master. There. Now it's 5 watts. Yeah, I mean, making a 5-watt amp doesn't cost any less than making a 15 or 20-watt amp. So. Unless I want to send it to China, which I'm not going to do. Not going to do. Thank you, Scott. You too. Bill, what do I make a 5-watt amp with? What do I use for power tubes? ain't no tube smaller than an EL84 that sound like what you want to hear. Just turn it down. That's right. Yeah, just use the master voltage. That's why. Yeah, I mean, to run EL84s where you only get 5 watts out of it, the voltage on it would be like 150 volts, and they don't sound good. I mean, it would cost exactly the same to make it, is what I'm saying. So why not just get a louder one and turn it down with our master voltage? Maybe the tremolo's too much for that, huh? For the ZZ. So it's only on 5. Let me turn it up 7 here. Get a little dirty. Yeah, 12 watts about as low as you can go, and I had to use a butt stack transformer to do that. Telecaster is the working man's guitar. Noisy. Very noisy. You're going to share about your move. Yes, let's all share. Let's have some me times. Turn down the lights. I'm a smart ass. I'm sorry. My beard's too short for ZZ. It's early ZZ. Early ZZ Top, right? What's the other early ZZ stuff I always pedal? I actually can do it pretty well on this. Go down. I got the amp up too loud now. I can't get it real clean. Go back down to 5. Let's say 6. Let's cut it in half. Jesus just left Chicago, headed down for New Orleans. I can't sing, but I have no shame, so it works out well, right? Jesus just left Chicago, headed down for New Orleans. Something like that. Hey, Doug. No, you're not too late. We're just goofing off. What's the other one from that record? Let me get this. Rumors spreading around Texas town. I can't sing it and play it. About that shack outside LaGrange. Just let me know if you want to go. Then it goes right into... Oh, this thing's out of tune. Let me fix this. Back down with the bump. No, Doug, this is just an amp stand. I'm going through our 212, only this week it's Alnico Blue and the Creamback. Sounds good with the Elvis. You're very generous, Anita. You're such a sweet lady. I appreciate you. Oh, hit the bump on. That sort of thing. ZZ Top. You can go. Get the drift. And then as long as we're down here, let's go into like tremolo saturation hell, right? Tin soldiers and Nixon's calling. Elvis. There we go. Let's see. We'll do it like this. Going to a little Keith land without going to open G. Elvis in a box. You've heard of the other Christmas present, my in a box. This is my rock in a box. It's my rock in a box. Oh. They can still, Telecaster, you can still do a little bit of that. Little hint, all the Supros that Jimmy Page recorded the Zeppelin stuff on were butt stack transformers. Yeah, this is the new creamback, Peter. Hello, by the way, from in Holland, in the Netherlands. Elvis weighs about 25 pounds, maybe 20 pounds, something like that. It's really light. Transformers are small. So that little Lightning Supra or whatever it was that Jimmy recorded all the Zeppelin stuff on. Anita, you got censored. I like that. Those are butt stack transformers. Yeah, those are all Valco amps. You know, Valco made the Silvertones, the Gretches, the Supros. That's all Gretsch. Yeah, I said Gretsch. All the Supro stuff. The Tupelo does not use a butt stack transformer. Played that in years. Anyway, Elvis has left the building. I like to say butt stack. Yeah, well, for those of you that came in late, watch the beginning of the show on the recording. I explained Transformers a little bit. So, butt stacked Transformers. A little bit of the secret sauce that nobody knows. I just shared it with you. When did you first start getting into really knowing about amps? About 2 weeks after I got my first amp, when I was 12. For those of you that know me, you know I'm a neurotic researcher. And I love to research. I love to read. I love to learn. And so I just started taking them apart. I got my first Marshall when I was 13. And I took it all apart. And my dad, I think, wanted to kill me after he spent all that money on the amp. I worked for it, Dad, by the way, but he paid for it. And I had to, let me turn up my mic here a little more since I don't have a guitar going. I had to learn how they work. And I love that. I love everything. So Transformers are not Transformers. People go, oh, give me a Transformer for a pair of EL34s. And the guys at the Transform place go, yeah, okay. What do you want? You know, one for two EL30. They're all the same, right? Doesn't make any difference. Okay. That's like saying, give me something made out of beef. Would you like a quarter pounder or a filet mignon? Doesn't matter. Beef's beef, right? It's all beef. That's the way Transformers are. And so if you're buying an amp that's really cheap, you're buying Transformers made overseas. There's no way to do American steel and copper for cheap. Or at least, you know, if you want to buy something under $1,000. I am a knee walk. How did you avoid electrocuting yourself other than being careful? That's my big fear before dabbling in amp modding and kit building. Very simple answer. I didn't. I electrocuted the shit out of myself many times, which is part of my problem, I think. You get hit with electricity, it doesn't kill you. It just hurts. And you don't need coffee for a couple days. That's really what it's all about. I have little, I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not, but I've got little white marks on the pads of my fingers. You can see those. I don't think this picks it up. But anyway, that's all. That's all electrocution, where I got cooked like a steak, and now it's a scar. My tick has gone away. Carp, do you want to check me for ticks? Yeah, I've been electrocuted. I've never been. I mean, I've been electrocuted badly a couple times. Um, Most of the electricity inside the amp is AC, so that allows you to let go. So usually when you get hit, wah, you just scream and jump, and maybe a little pee comes out. Um, but it's when you get hit by DC that it can be really dangerous. So DC makes your muscles lock and you can't let go, and you sit there and go, ah. AC you jump away from automatically. It's kind of weird though. Like I got hit with what I think was right around 375 volts a few years ago. Here in the shop, I had a guitar on and I reached in an amp like a dipshit, and one hand on the guitar, and electrocuted the hell out of myself, and I screamed like Howard Dean. So Americans know what I'm talking about, you people overseas. He's this politician that ruined his career because he got excited at a rally and screamed like a little girl, and the Republican Party played it over and over again to embarrass the guy, and it killed him. But anyway, I couldn't change a light bulb for about 2 months after that. I just couldn't, like, I'm like, I'd watch my hand as if it were someone else's hand just pull back. I couldn't touch it. And then I got hit with 220 AC from the wall once, and that's a lot more amperage than what's inside of an amp. Inside of an amplifier, there's 1 amp maybe. So amperage is the amount of current. Voltage is the pressure on the current. So it's not so much the voltage that you have to worry about, it's the amperage. So I got hit one time. I got 220 out of the wall, and on a 15 amp circuit, and that one freaked me out. That one sent me, I was on my back when I did it, and all my muscles flexed and extended at the same time, and I slid across the floor about 10 feet, and it sounded like a shotgun going off when I got hit by that. That one really freaked me out. Like, I didn't even want to turn on the lights, like just touching a light switch for about 2 days. That one scared me. But I'm fine. I definitely didn't need coffee for like a week after that. Profane aeroplane. Yeah, your teeth can hurt. It's really more about the amperage than it is the voltage. So, long answer to a short question. Who asked that? I'm an Ewok. No. Yeah, that's close, Kevin. Kevin says, I was taught amperage is the size of the pipe and voltage is the water. If you want to use a water analogy, amperage is the amount of water, and voltage is the pressure that the water's under. So if I use the analogy like a pressure washer that you have, for your driveway. That's a little bit of water under a lot of pressure, like 1,700 pounds of pressure, versus a garden hose, which is like 50 times more water, but not under much pressure. When you don't have a nozzle on your garden hose, how it just kind of dribbles out like an old man peeing. That's a lot of water that's not under much pressure. So in an amplifier, for the most part, you have a little bit of electricity that's under medium pressure. So it can be deadly. I mean, you guys should always be careful. If you ever reach inside of an amplifier, put one hand in your pocket so that you can't make a circuit. Because if you make a circuit with both hands, guess what's right in the middle, right? Your heart. So just to be safe for anybody who's attempting to work on their amps, even when you have your amp unplugged, those filter caps still have electricity in them. So if you touch those, you make a circuit with both of your hands, the electricity is going to go through your heart. So that's the one thing you always got to be crazy about. But I get zapped all the time. What did my wife have to say about that? She wasn't very happy with me. She was in the room when it happened, as a matter of fact. She was scared poopless. She was very upset with me and very upset that I hurt myself and I was careless. So I learned from it. Sometimes I turn the standby with the power off to drain the power. That doesn't do it. Your filter caps are still charged. So as a general rule, unless the amp has been sitting for about 2 years, there's electricity in there. Be very, 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 very careful. The easiest thing you can do is just put one hand in your pocket. You're not going to make a circuit that way. So you can touch stuff with one hand because you're not making a circuit. If your hand touches the part and then the chassis at the same time, you'll make a circuit through your hand, which is what I've done a lot. And that's how I got these burns on my fingers, because I was touching something and then accidentally brushed the chassis and it grounded. But I've never done it with two hands in the chassis. That's where you can really hurt yourself. Doug says, I pretended I got zapped with my wife in the room. I thought she was going to kill. Yeah, that's not funny, man. Women don't play that game at all. Women are much smarter than we are. And I'll be the first to admit it on the internet here right now. Women don't do this stuff. You know why? Because they're smart. We're risk takers and crazy dudes. Women don't do that shit. For good reason. Anita Farragher is here going, yeah, that's right. Amen, brother. Women got to take care of stuff. You know, their instinct is much different than ours. You know, we're the hunter-gatherers, I guess, and we go out and take on a mastodon with a stick, you know. Women would never do that. They're way too smart. Oh, yeah. Women don't like the thought of losing their yard cleaner. Yeah, I always joke that if chocolate could take out the trash, my wife wouldn't need me at all. Thank God she wants me. But she doesn't need me. She wants me, but she doesn't need me a bit. Yeah. So, yeah, don't mess with amps barefoot either. You know, just be smart. Don't make yourself a conduit for electricity, you know. If your feet are on the ground, guess why they call it grounding? Guess why that is? All electricity, no matter where you get it, emanates from the earth. So if you connect yourself to the earth, bada boom. Okay, Rock and Roll Willie, you asked this question. I didn't answer it before. Let me address it because we kind of went off on a tangent here. Some describe the 12X7 side of the London as an 18-watt Marshall. It's similar. That's where it started. We made some changes. Yeah, Doug, absolutely. That's like cooking bacon naked. You don't solder in the newt, Doug Gilliam says. The London is sort of Marshall and Vox. The first channel is similar to an 18-watt Marshall. It's not a copy of it. We made a lot of improvements and updates. The Vox side is similar, but not a copy of an AC-15. Haven't you ever heard that joke? That man, he's such a man. He's such a tough guy. He cooks bacon in the nude. That is one tough mofo right there. So the London gets a little bit of Vox and Marshall, if that makes sense.